Hi guys, welcome back to Farm Up. Well, 2024 has ended, 2025 has started, and over the last 1 year, I've had quite a number of lessons that personally I have learned from my farms and that I believe are going to make me great going forward. Now, I want to share these lessons with you guys because I believe these things have made me, and if not for them, I certainly wouldn't be where I am right now, yeah? If I didn't understand these things and implement them as time moved by, I certainly wouldn't be in this position that I'm in right now. So 2024 has ended on a strong note for me because I've gotten very strong lessons that I want to share with you guys that you can implement on your farms so that you can be successful going forward. So if that is you, then stick around right through to the very end. Lesson number one is that you are responsible for the success of your farm. 100% responsible. Now, the reason I've said this is because I was looking back at the decisions and the kind of decisions that I kept making on the farm and how they affected the success of my farm. I'll give one quick example, yeah? This chicken house that I'm standing to right now has a flock. That flock is about 30 years of age, and right behind it, I don't know, you guys can actually see it in the distance, exactly where I'm pointing, yeah? That's a water tank, yeah? And that water tank harvests rainwater from this chicken house to go inside that tank, and then after that we would pump it into the chicken houses. Now, historically, my flocks have performed really well. They have always performed really well. But then at particular times, water would become quite complicated and also water would become quite pricey. So I decided that occasionally I would pump water from that tank into the chicken houses. Now, I knew that it was wrong, to just pump the water. And so I decided, to occasionally treat it with chlorine. So I would treat it with chlorine. But what I didn't realize is that even after treating with chlorine, there are some things which don't just get killed with chlorine. Maybe a few parasites, you might deal with a few bacteria or viruses, but maybe some parasites and things like that. And also if the load of the microorganism, whether it's a virus or a bacteria, is really high in the water, then you'll have very little effect. Now what that meant is that we started getting a few deaths inside here, and when we did postmortems, I noticed that it's most likely an E. coli infection, and it was because of the water, yeah? Now, we managed to clear it using an antibiotic, but up to now, this flock has failed to recover fully, yeah? It picked up, we got our weights up, the productions went up. I think at some point we hit like 91%. Now it's at 30 weeks of age and we should be at 95%, which is a percentage that I have achieved with all the other flocks, but I failed to achieve with this. Currently, we started losing weights and then the weights came down. I think right now we are meandering around 85, which is really terrible. For a lot of farms, that's okay, but for me, it's really terrible because that means I'm losing out a whole 10% in terms of production, which is a lot of money I could utilize every day, yeah? Now, we've started giving them some antibiotics again, and they are starting to pick up. They're going to get back up. We might get to around 90 or 91%, but I don't think we shall get to 95, which is a huge loss, yeah? And why? Because I made the simple decision of wanting to cut costs by, not paying for proper water and trying to pump using that water, yeah? Now, I can say that all these other things are responsible for the failure of my farm, but only I am responsible for that, yeah? So, a lot of times you'll have issues on your farm. You'll have workers giving you a hard time. You'll have particular decisions that need to be made. You'll have people talking about your farm. I mean, I post a lot on, social media. I post on X a lot. I post on all these other platforms. And a lot of times when I post, I'll find people who have, I would say, contrary beliefs to what I do have. I'll probably share the success of my farm and the progress that I've made. And then all these people will come out antagonizing, saying, you inherited a lot of land, no, you're a fraud, you're probably stealing and all that kind of stuff. And that can affect you in one way or another if you're not of a strong heart, yeah? It can affect the decisions you make on the farm. It can affect the way you think about your business. It can even make you start making poor decisions. I'll give you an example, yeah? So I have a lot of times where I post and then I see in people's comments where people are talking about the fact that, hey, I've tried poultry, and after trying poultry, I've made a lot of losses. Everyone I know who has tried poultry either doesn't get the market or their chickens die and everything. There is no way you can tell me that you make your money from poultry. 100%, no way. And I mean, if you listen to such stuff and you don't have the conviction inside yourself, you can follow it, yeah? But I understand that the success of my farm depends on me. It doesn't depend on what anyone else says. And the other thing that goes on to show me is that because of who those people are, or because of who everyone else is, they probably make the wrong decisions. And those decisions affect the success of their farm, of course, in the negative direction. I, because of the decisions I make, always ensure that, I get the best results from my farm. Yeah. So I'm solely responsible for the success of my farm, of course, with God. Yeah. I mean, when I say solely, I'm talking about human beings. Yeah. I'm personally a Christian. I do believe in God, and I believe that I certainly wouldn't be where I am without the grace of God, without the power of God working through me. But what you need to understand is that don't blame the workers on your farm for the failure. Don't blame even the manager on your farm, yeah? Because you should be able to understand, you should be able to go through all, the steps, the checklists to monitor the farm, the success of the farm, whether you're present or not. For me, every time I have a lag back on the farm and everything, it's because I had a lapse on something. Either I didn't pay attention to particular data, I thought everything was obvious, and in the end, I have to take responsibility for it, because if I don't, then I will change nothing about it. Yeah. So you need to take responsibility for things, understand that the success of your farm is solely dependent on you. And when you do that, then you will actively implement things on the farm to ensure that you have the correct results on your farm. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is choose to fish in a lake, not in a pond. Yeah. Now, of course, I've decided to come with, is it an idiom or something like that? But the whole idea here is that when you're choosing to go after a business idea, a farming idea, this works for any business, but we'll talk about farming in particular. Yeah. If you decide to go after a farming idea, you want to invest yourself in a niche or a farming business that has a huge scope in terms of market. Now, of course, it just depends on how big you want to get. Yeah. And the reason I'll tell you that is because in the very same year, I've had 2 projects really multiply. So this is a poultry farm. For example, I'll just focus on this commercial layer farm. Currently, we're at about 9,500 birds. I think we started this year with 5,000 birds, and now we're at 9,500 birds in production. Yeah, and that's a really good increase, because it's almost twice what we started with. And the advantage with that is that even with 9,500 birds, I still have market for eggs. So guys, think about it. I started my poultry farm when I had 800 chickens. Think about it, 800 chickens. Right now I have 9,500. That's more than 10 times what I had initially. Yeah, more than 10 times. I think 11 or 12 times, about 12 times what I had initially. And even then, I still have market, and I still can't satisfy the market. On the breeder farm, I do have a rabbit project that I started out. Just 12 rabbits. Yeah. Now currently they have multiplied. There are quite many, and they're all on free range. Unfortunately though, I can't tell you that I'm going to keep growing those numbers to maybe 1,000 rabbits, because where the hell am I going to sell them? You understand? Yeah. Now, if you're going to be investing your attention and your commitment to something, what you need to understand is that at the beginning, choose a lake. So in this case, a lake is the poultry project, because with a poultry project, there are so many people all around the country, all around the world, who are consuming poultry projects. Yeah. I'm investing or trying to fish from a huge lake or maybe an ocean, yeah, where stuff is everywhere. Yeah. Now, if you choose to do rabbits, for example, it's like fishing from a pond. You see, if you fish in a pond, you'll get fish. Yeah. You might maybe get 1,000 fish every day, depending on how big your pond can, but you won't sustain that, number 1. Number 2, you can't get 1,000,000 fish from a pond every day. It's impossible. You understand? So maybe you start with 1,000 fish, but if you want to grow, then the only option you have to is to build more ponds. Yeah, which is actually a terrible idea, because in this case, if you're talking about rabbits, for example, you start out with a rabbit farm, and then you've gotten the market and all those things. Let's say you're making, I don't know, let's say you're making $1,000 every month, or let's say $2,000 every month from your rabbit farm. Now, if you want to grow your farm 10 times to get $20,000 a month from your farm, you have to increase the scope of the people who eat rabbits. And that's not natural. I mean, I personally don't eat a lot of rabbits every day. I can eat some rabbits, but I don't eat as much rabbits as people do eat chickens. You understand? So then I have to go into sensitizing people, trying to tell them about eating rabbits and all that kind of stuff. Why? Because I'm fishing from a small pond. The small pond is the limited market of the rabbit. So when you're starting out, remember at the beginning, you're going to put in a lot of hustle, you're going to put in a lot of focus, you're going to put in a lot of hard work. You want all that hard work to go into something that can easily expand later on. Yeah, not something where you're going to hit a market cap and then just like that, all your efforts at the beginning were for nothing. Yeah, so always ensure that you fish from a lake or a huge ocean, and not a small pond. That was the second thing I learned this year. The third thing is to get ready and adapt with time. Yeah, adapt with changing circumstances. Don't be rigid, don't be fixed. Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys why, I came up with this. I mean, personally, I'm the kind of person who adapts quite easily and quite quickly. Yeah, and that has come out to actually be very helpful. When I started out on the farm, for example, I wanted to use this area to do a breeder farm. I ended up not using it for a breeder farm, and I'm using it to do a commercial layer farm. Now, also, when I started out, I wanted to do a maximum of, I think, 4,000 chickens. But as I grew, my dreams grew bigger, and I was like, I'll do 10,000. Now I've reached 10,000. I have some land nearby right here, and I'm thinking to myself, I think I should do 20,000. Yeah. Now, if I was rigid, I would have told myself, no, I've gotten to 5,000. I'm not going to grow. I'll probably go into another business or into another field or something like that. Yeah. You need to be willing to adapt. Initially, when I started, I have a compound just beside my house. You guys can see my house in the background right there, yeah? So just beside my house, I have a compound. Right there, I had planted crops and things like that. But then I didn't have kids and things like that. Right now, I do have kids, and I told myself, initially, I had sworn that, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to have grass and a lawn in front of my house. As in, why not just use it to grow crops? Great idea. Makes a lot of sense. Things have changed. I do have kids right now. They need a place to play from. They need a place to, enjoy. And I mean, the farm has grown where I'm making enough money to not care so much about a small garden and how much I can get from there. Yeah, I would rather have a free space where I can sit down, relax, and lie. Now that's more valuable to me right now. Now for you, that might not be more valuable, and for you, growing crops in your land might be the most important thing. The idea is be adaptable. Yeah. So be open to change. Just be open to change. Be open to adapting. Don't be rigid. Don't be fixated on one thing. Understand that things can change anytime, and be willing to change as the times change, because that's what's going to bring your farm forward. Yeah. So initially, I told myself that, hey, I prefer to have my chickens in deep litter style because they have the freedom. But then I'm also considering doing cages right now. Of course, cages that are better, something like that. Yeah. So I'm considering it seriously. I'm personally considering it. So don't be rigid. Be open to ideas, open to learning, and open to implementing new things in your life. And finally, lesson number 4 is always plan for the worst. Yeah, I mean, for the first time in like 4 years, we had a really terrible season this year. Now things have gotten better right now, but we had a really, really terrible season. Oh my God, in terms of the prices of eggs. Yeah, so I had planned that I was going to be selling this number of trays. I was going to be making this amount of margins. This is the amount of money that I was going to be taking home. Oh my God, November and December, the prices plummeted. Like, they really went down, everything. Yeah. And I mean, I personally hadn't planned for the worst. Yeah. Now I was lucky enough that I'd saved some money, of course, from the farm. I'd saved it up because I wanted to build a chicken house right there. Unfortunately, right now I can't build the chicken house because then I used that money, to try and keep the farm afloat and things like that. The farm was still profitable enough, but then, of course, I was building some things around. For example, I was building a tank stand. I was building some things around, so I had to get money out. Still invest into the farm, but not like to expand, like build a chicken house and things like that. Yeah. Now, you need to make sure that you prepare for the worst. Yeah. I mean, if you're making your calculations on cost and everything, if you can make the calculations based on as high the cost as possible and as low the profit as possible, and then make that like the realistic expectation for you, you're going to be very successful. Yeah. Because first of all, you're going to make sure that even with very low margin, your farm remains afloat and it's still successful. But number 2, if the farm does better, which is most likely what's going to happen, you're going to have a lot of money at your disposal. Yeah. So this year we had a really, really terrible period. Really terrible period. I've personally managed to be able to go through it, but it has reminded me of that lesson. Plan for the worst. Don't plan for the best. Don't plan for the mediocre situation, the usual normal situation. Plan for the worst. If you plan for the worst, you're going to implement everything as effectively as possible to go through that time. And then usually things won't happen as bad as you do plan, usually. Once in a while they do. Sometimes they happen worse than you even ever imagine, but usually they won't. And when they don't, you're going to have really great results. Yeah. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This has been a lot of the lessons that I've personally learned on the farm. I've been able to scale and grow my farm, and I mean, everything is doing really wonderful. Yeah, think about it. I started with just 800 chickens, and right now we're at over 9,500. Crazy! Less than 5 years. I mean, the people who call me a fraud, for example, on social media, it's because they can't believe how quickly the growth has been. But hey, it's because I learned and discovered some things that they don't know. Yeah, and I mean, I've put all that knowledge together in a package which is the Farm Up Academy. Now I'll leave a link to the Farm Up Academy in the description of this video. You can go and check it out. Right there you can join the Farm Up Academy, learn how to start and build your own profitable poultry farm. One that can make you anything between $5, $10, $15, $20,000 every month. All you need is knowledge. Trust me, all you need is knowledge. You don't have to lose time, waste time, lose money just like that. The Farm Up Academy is the right thing for you. Catch you there. Lots of love. Catch you very soon with another video. Bye-bye.